Shout out and big thanks to 1.21 Gigawatts for letting us use their song, Lieutenant Dan. What's that? You want to know more? Well, go to their Facebook page at facebook.com/121Gigawatts. Now, on with the podcast. Hey guys, welcome to the third podcast for Hub City Comedy. I'm your host, as always, Mercer Morrison, and my guest is today, state your name.
Jamie Arrington. Thanks for having me. Always glad to talk about myself.
All right, yes, you selfish bastard. All right, anyway, just a few announcements to get out of the way. Every Monday in Hattiesburg, we have open mic night at McGregor's Pub. Sign-ups at 8:30, and we start at 9, or sometimes 10, 11, 12, 1, 2, 3, 4,
eventually.
5. Yeah, eventually at some point. We'll start the podcast. I mean, the open mic. But also, there is it actually won't be back until September 8th, but there is a weekly open mic at Island Strikes in the Gulfport, Biloxi area. I think it's in Biloxi. And that starts at 10. But you can find all of this at hubcitycomedy.com or facebook.com/hubcitycomedy. So, and I guess a few shows to get out of the way. I will be at the Jellyfish Bar in Perdido.
The Jellyfish Bar?
The Jellyfish Bar. I got invited to it. I find it really cool because it's actually on the beach. So, which is like something I've always wanted to do. I've always wanted to do a comedy show.
Like outside on the beach?
Yes, outside on the beach. Like, I'll just be telling jokes and be like... and like
I don't know, like, doing them inside with like bartenders that are using shakers and everything all the time. I can't imagine having to combat the ocean.
I don't know. I didn't think about that. You just crushed my dreams. I was just like, combat the way to just like deflate.
That's what I'm here for.
Yeah, I'm so glad you're here to crush all my dreams. But anyway, Jellyfish Bar, September 7th. In Perdido, I think it's at 9, and a bunch of comedians are going to be there. Brittany Purvis, that you heard on the last podcast, will be there. And also September 29th, I'm doing a show at the Alchemy Tavern, also with Brittany, in Mobile. So stay tuned for all that. Whenever the dates are starting to come up closer and closer, I will give more details out for that. But Jamie...
You want to know what's going on with me? I got a couple of shows coming up. September the 13th, Corner Sports Bar on Highway 49, just outside of Southgate of Camp Shelby. Mac Hard is going to be there. I'm really excited about working with her. Brittany Purvis, too. And it's going to be hosted by Eric Carter. And then a few days after that, September 18th, we have the return of the very funny Pat Dixon.
Almost infamous Pat Dixon.
I mean, pretty much got this whole thing going. I'm sure we'll talk about that at some point. Mm-hmm. But he's got a new album coming out this fall, so he's kind of making the rounds.
I'm going to get it, like, that.
You know what the album's... I think it's called Cookies and Ass. Is the name...
That's going to be sold in
very
in
fitting for... Yeah, very fitting for Pat.
Cookies and Ass.
He'll be at Sidelines, 8 o'clock, $10, Sideline Sports Cafe. I'm going to be hosting. Mercer will be there. Mm-hmm. Derek Kopshawa and David W. Smith. It's going to be a great night of comedy. Always a good time at Sidelines whenever we show up there.
That reminds me. Sidelines has started an open mic every Wednesday.
Wednesday night,
starting at 8. And they literally go forever because Derek and I got there at 11. Not too many people were there, probably because the prime time hours were sort of gone, but it was still a pretty good crowd of 2. But yeah, it was still a good time. It was really fun. So yeah, open mic night at Sidelines is not just for comedy. Like, anyone can come, musicians, urban poets, and things like that. So be there. And so we now have like 3 open mics around the area. So kind of glad about that. But yes, about Pat. Pat's probably like when I saw him, he just blew me away, and it was, I don't know. It's so effortless the way he does comedy.
It really is. It just, it's always a treat just to see him. Whether it's on, we don't get it down here, but you can find it on the web. The Bob and Tom Show, seeing him on there, and as well as VH1. Mm-hmm. I'll have it on. Be like best of the 90s or something, and Pat's face will just pop up on there. He's just a really funny guy, and just an honor to get to work with him. I guess this will be the 3rd time he's been to Hattiesburg. So
yeah, definitely the 3rd time, and I guess my fourth time seeing him. It was fun hanging out with him in New York, although brief. I guess because like I mean, definitely whenever you're a comedian in the Big Apple, and especially on the level he's at, you gotta run around and do all this stuff. And plus, he hosts a bunch of shows at the Creek and the Cave. And
the podcast. The podcast is hilarious.
I was just about to say, like the New York Crime Report. That
it is not something I would play for my mom, but me personally, it's a little. I've had people. I download these podcasts and I listen to them in the car when I'm driving. And I had a guy riding with me one day, and he was just like in shock by what was going on that podcast. But you have to take it with a grain of salt.
Also, I'm not gonna say what happened because I mean, my friend Zach and I like when I went to visit New York like first day in, Pat was just like, yeah, I have this show at the Creek and the Cave. It's called the Naked Lady Hour. And I was like, all right, let's go. And yes, obviously there was a naked lady, but there were some other shocking things that happened there.
Doesn't he have a bacon bar?
He does have a bacon bar. That's what was so impressive. And the show was free. So anyone that's amazingly listening to this that's in New York, I think every Sunday at around 10, he has like the Naked Lady Hour. And it has like a bunch of... It's almost vaudeville-esque. Actually, it is more on the vaudeville side because... like he'll have some comedians come up there, and then like some girl will come out and strip, and then sometimes they'll have bands. Like it's very sort of like a throwback to like the old ways that shows were done.
Maybe we should do that at Sidelines.
Yeah, we should. Yeah, have you seen anyone with any stripper bodies around here in Mississippi? Because I really haven't. But
well, I mean, the strip
probably
people
here bury
different.
Strippers here.
Yeah,
but yeah, it's still a really good thing. But enough about Pat, and more on to my guest. Jamie Arrington. Arrington. Jamie. To give you a little background, he is the one that helped me co-founded Hub City Comedy. Always almost mispronounce that. And by help, I mean he's pretty much the brains behind it, and I'm just the yes man. But
I'm like the Kevin Nash, you're like the Scott Hall.
Yeah, I'm the one that gets drunk in the corner.
Yes.
And then reunites with my son, and then a month later he hates me. Maybe we'll get onto that later. But anyway, Jamie, why don't you give me a background on what your comedy beginnings were, from pretty much like what got you interested if you were like a little kid all the way up till now.
I was thinking about this, and it's when I knew I was going to come on here, I started thinking about it, and I was like, I guess it's several parts to it. I guess from the comedy standpoint, I've always enjoyed stuff that made me laugh, even as a kid, cartoons, and I guess once I got to be about 5 years old, I was a very, very shy kid. A very, very shy kid until a certain point in my life. And my dad always talks about how the first time I did an impression, it was of Ed Grimley. I came out of the bath and I had my little hair pointed up. I'm totally mental. And it's the first time I did that. And so from there, I had a lot of influences as a child. Pee Wee Herman, Jerry Lewis, until I got to my teenage years. Then I was really, really into SNL. Thought that may be something I want to do someday, but I really like stand-up comedy. I would record stand-up comedy. I would buy like the tapes at the time. There were tapes.
Oh yeah, and that's how I got into it as well.
Listen to that, and then I guess I always thought about doing it, and maybe around 2001 when I was finishing up in college, and I saw Comedy Central presents back to back. It was Dane Cook and Mitch Hedberg. And after watching both of those guys back to back, I was like, you know what, this is something that I want to do.
That seems easy. If Dane Cook can make it,
Dane Cook can do it.
No.
But Dane was great at that time. I really enjoyed his stuff.
Dane's definitely, I think he's just one of those guys that has just kind of fallen in on his own ego. Because, yeah, that's who also influenced me to start doing comedy was him. But after, all right, but continue.
But there's with comics, there's always something wrong with anybody that wants to do stand up. There's something just mentally off, and
you just have to guess what that.
You have to guess what it is with everybody. But I was thinking about the different points in my life that led me to having the mentality of being able to do it, and the first thing is I had an interesting childhood. Nothing really bad. It's just my parents.
Except that one time.
Except that one time. My parents singing along. They divorced. I guess when I was about 12, and when they split up, I stayed with my dad. And my dad was a preacher, and he spent a lot of time doing stuff at the church and with his congregation. I spent a lot of time alone by myself, so I would have to try to come up with ways to entertain myself. And I had been a really, really shy kid up until this point. And so when I started going back to school, we were not very well off at the time. I mean, we didn't have much furniture in the house. I mean, we were eating off. I'm not ashamed to say we were eating off of like cardboard boxes, paper plates, just trying to get by. So I'd go to school and, kids, jabots were real big at the time. I didn't have jabots, I was wearing
I don't know
Levi's.
what jabots are, but I'm going to look
Jabots were like, look it up. They had the little sash across the crotch.
I bet that was
really big, like
really
1991. Yeah, oh yeah. I think Zach Morris wore them.
That's probably why. Old Zacky Poo.
Zacky Poo. So I go back to school that year, and I was in a class called Excel, which is a gifted class, and they really encourage creativity and stuff. And I was kind of out of my mind. I just kind of would just say crazy, outlandish stuff to see what I could get away with, and that kind of started bringing me out of my shell. Then when I got to high school, I did it was like my 9th grade year. I saw these guys. One dude who actually lived next door to me, he was a vice lord. He was like one of the top gang guys in the school.
Are we talking about like GTA, like Scarface kind of stuff?
I don't know what he was into, but I saw him beat the hell out of some dude in our neighborhood one time. I didn't want to mess with him, but what...
With a name like Vice Lord, I mean...
Vice Lord, yes.
That's...
He was doing the talent show, like my 9th grade year.
Vice Lord, yeah, all right.
They did Onyx. They did Slam by Onyx was the song they performed. And I was
Hooked on Phonics, all right, go.
I was so, like, mesmerized by somebody actually getting up there and do something, like, not the norm at the talent show. They weren't, getting up there playing the guitar with their friends, playing the piano, stuff that really wasn't entertaining. They were actually up there entertaining the crowd. So the next year, I decided I was going to do the talent show. So I got a little hat, the little like Mexican hat with the little balls hanging off of it, painted my face green, and I performed Cuban Pete as seen in The Mask.
Oh god! Did you have like the zoot suit on, or like what would you wear?
I wore like blue sweatpants and a white button-up shirt, and I pulled the sweatpants up to my knees, and then had like black socks, kind of like tights.
And how many chicks numbers did you get after that performance?
Well, we didn't have cell phones back then, so.
How many house numbers?
Did I get?
Yes.
It was kind of funny, man. The mentality of the people that saw that kind of just changed the way they acted around me after that, and it was pretty cool. Just
now, there's that Cuban Pete fag. Like,
yeah.
Say?
So the next year, I did it again, and I took a Cajun song. And I wrote words to it. It was just like an instrumental song called "The Raging Cajun," and I did that. And it really, that's when my class went. They only let the juniors and seniors go for some reason. So my class went my junior year. I placed 3rd, and then my senior year I did it again. I did like a disco funk song, placed 3rd again, and then I got to college and I placed 3rd again in the talent show. I'll come back to that in a little bit. But yeah, I guess there's different doors you go through and different things open up. I've always had a spot for needing an outlet to do something creative. Something always stuck with me. When I got to college, I started doing the mascot thing, which was a lot of fun.
So you weren't a mascot until college. Like, you never did anything in high school with that?
No, I never did anything in high school.
So take me to the process of how, like, you just walk in, because I thought there had to be some preliminary stuff.
I was at Jones Junior College, and I was friends with some of the cheerleaders, and I thought the mascot my first year there I didn't think he was great. I saw him doing it. I was like, you know what, I could do better than that. And so tryouts came around. I went up there, and I dressed up like, you didn't have to wear the costume to try out. So I dressed up like Bill Clinton, and I had 2 cheerleaders dressed up kind of like in suits, and we did a dance to Getting Jiggy with It. And
which was hot at the time.
It was hot at the time.
Damn it, that song.
In 98.
And
end up getting it at Jones. So I went to camp. I started networking. They have mascot camps in the summer, which I taught for a few years, and networking with guys. I guess the guys from the University of Alabama kind of... a guy named Shane kind of took me, I won't say he took me under his wing, but he kind of, talked to me about some things when I was there at camp and kind of led me in the direction that, hey, I can do this. I can go compete at nationals. And so when I left Jones, I went to Southern Miss, tried out at Southern Miss, made it there. My second year at Southern, I got one of my good friends, John Mills, on board because me and him were kind of on the same page. We started going to nationals. We finished 10th in 2001 and finished 7th in 2002, and then we made the Capital One All-America team in 2002. It was the first one. You'll see the commercials around Christmas time every year. We made the first one of those, which was a lot of fun. I'll tell you a funny story about that. We were shooting this commercial in Atlanta. You got like 12 of like the best mascots in the country all in the same place. And there was this girl, and she was pretty cute, and she was in the commercial. Didn't know who she was at the time. And start talking to her, and she's like, yeah, I've done some commercials. I just shot this music video with Toby Keith. And I was like, oh, that's pretty cool. You know, the video was called Who's Your Daddy? And I lost touch. You know, I emailed her a few times just to kind of see what she was up to. I lost touch. I move away. I come back, and I look on my buddy's his coffee table, and he had Playboy, and she was the Playmate of the Year. Her name is Tiffany Fallon, and she married a dude from Rascal Flatts.
I'm gonna have to Google search that
Google
later.
it. Do it now. Do it now. We'll keep
Google
talking.
Myself. No. Yeah, that's all. So far, I haven't. Like, I've heard that Playboy sometimes and Girls Gone Wild sometimes comes through Hattiesburg, but I couldn't imagine like knowing someone. Well, sometimes I do in my mind, but like physically imagine a girl that I know being Playboy and stuff like that, because that just seems weird. Actually, wait, I do know a girl. She, I'm not going to say her name, but from what I understand, it was like 5 years ago. I found out she did like a pictorial, but there was nothing. It was nothing nudes. It was just like her in like lingerie and stuff like that. But then she stopped because her boyfriend at the time just really didn't like it. But I always thought that was kind of she had like a weird stage name, like Miss Intrigue or something like that. It was weird. Like,
did her boyfriend play sports?
No.
Okay. All right. Brittany Purvis?
Yes, it was Brittany Purvis.
Brittany Purvis, all right.
Jesse Vassar. You know, I need to have Jesse on. It like Brittany's boyfriend Jesse, like he could just wow you with hours of how like crappy his extended family is.
You need to get Jesse drunk first, and then plug a mic.
We'll have a drunk addition to this podcast. But anyway, okay. So after the Toby Keith, Who's Your Daddy?
So I graduated from USM, and I decided I wanted to go pro. Which kind of it just seemed like the fun thing to do. So I went and tried out in Chicago, and I was the first mascot for the Chicago Bears back in 2003. It was a lot of fun, and then I was the first mascot for the Phoenix Coyotes in the NHL in 2005.
We can't just gloss over that. Like, what was it like jumping from a town like Mississippi all the way to Chicago? Like, what was that feeling of just like?
To be honest, it was tough. But you know how I mentioned that every comic has something wrong with them?
Yeah.
It was in Chicago when I discovered what that was.
And
I loved, anytime I was doing something, you know, in the suit, I loved it. I loved hanging out with my friends up there. But I was totally not prepared for Chicago. And I kind of found out from that whole process, it took a couple of weeks into it, that I had suffered from severe depression and had been dealing with it for several years, dating back to high school, but I just didn't know what it was. So when I was up there, I was able to identify it and get some help for it. And I think being able to overcome that kind of helped set the stage for me to begin comedy.
True.
It was something I didn't know that I would be able to do, dealing with that, because it drains a lot of you and what you're able to do and your motivation, and it kind of affected my performance in Chicago a little bit. But you know, hey, it's constant maintenance, but I'm doing fine with it now. I don't feel like I've had to deal with it in several years. But if you want to get to the juice of Chicago, I'll tell you some funny things about Chicago.
All right.
My favorite story from when I was in Chicago, we were at training camp. And you go out every night at training camp. That's just what the players do. They all go out, go to the same bar most of the time, hang out. You know, they'll have it roped off for Bears players and personnel, and they'll let whatever hose they like in through the ropes. And so one night, Brian Urlacher decides he wants to go to a different bar. And so a couple of the interns, me, the center, a guy named Olin Kreutz, we walk down to this other bar, and it was almost like everybody expected us to be there. People had pictures of Brian. They had footballs. And they were like ready for him to sign them. He signed every autograph. He sat there and sipped his beer, and I was just watching him in amazement. I was like, this guy is so cool. I mean, everybody's eyes are on him all night long watching everything he does, and it just did not faze him. So my buddy Mark leans over to me, and he says, hey, man, that new Freddy and Jason movie's coming out. And I was like, yeah. I was like, Freddy's going to kick Jason's ass. And Brian hears this, and he stands up, and he slams his fist on the table, and he's like, Jason's way better than Freddy. You can't kill Jason. And I'm like leaning back in my chair like, oh, no. He sits down, sips his beer, cool the rest of the night. And I was like, man, I changed my mind. I think Jason's going to whoop Freddy's ass. This is not even a contest.
By Brian Urlacher.
By Brian Urlacher.
A Brian Urlacher joint.
Brian Urlacher joint.
And Freddy versus Jason. But that is pretty exciting. But I don't know, it just seems like a weird transition to jump from.
It is. And it's the type of thing, if I had it to do over again, I would know better on a lot of things that I could have done that would have made the experience more pleasant for me, but I just didn't know. It's all about experience, man. It's all about
someone calling.
I'll call him back. All about experience, and I guess it's the same way with comedy. Just learning what you can and can't get away with, and what you should and shouldn't do. But a gentleman like yourself, if you're ever looking to move away, I definitely will recommend a huge savings account before you leave.
Yeah, that's what I've been told repeatedly. But so you did the whole mascot thing, but I think you told me that you also tried your hand at Second City.
I enrolled at Second City, and I got ready to start classes there, but I left Chicago. So before I could really get into it. So,
well, what made you leave Chicago?
Well, I just was. It was cold. I had some, issues back home. My father was having some heart trouble, and I just felt it would be best for me to come home and regroup, and then do something else. So it was really sad walking into Second City and asking for my money back, because you walk down this hallway and it's like all these pictures of guys that you've just admired over the years. Mike Myers, Belushi,
Joe
Aykroyd,
Piscopo.
Joe Piscopo.
Joe Pesci Piscopo. No, but yeah, that is sort of. Man, that would.
It was really deflating, because I was like, I felt like maybe I could do something with myself if I could go through these classes and get involved with these people, and it would really. I know that most of the SNL folks at the time had come through Second City, so I thought, wow, if I'm ever going to do something, I need to go through this. And it was just so deflating to walk in there, and they were like, yeah, you can have your money back, and they gave it to me, and I hopped on the L train, went home, and packed my stuff and left out. But I love Second City, man. I loved going to their shows and everything. I mean, it was just hilarious, and really wanted to be a part of it, and was very disappointed that I didn't get to be a part of it. So
is that sort of a big regret that you have, that you never really truly tried it?
I wouldn't say it's a regret. I guess in a way it is. I was thinking about that, like, if I had stayed with it, what would I be doing right now? And who's to say? I may have never made it, but it kind of was motivation for me to get started in stand-up. Was missing out on that.
So you moved back home, and
I moved back home.
Yeah.
I pick up a job here in the cell phone industry. Worked there doing that until Katrina, and actually got a call during Katrina while I was sitting out watching the storm, and flew me to Phoenix. I interviewed with the Coyotes. They offered me the job, and I spent that season as the mascot for the Phoenix Coyotes, the NHL team. I absolutely loved Phoenix.
It's hot as balls there.
It really isn't. People say that.
I've been there. It's hot as shit.
Dude, I get off the plane 2 weeks without air conditioning after Katrina. I get off the plane in Phoenix. I don't break a sweat.
True. Well, that's because it's all evaporating.
It was nothing.
You don't
like
realize when you dehydrate, your body just cramps up and you die.
It is hot though. But
yeah,
it's nothing like South Mississippi.
Oh yeah, true. Like I'm so glad that whenever Katrina happened, I was still in high school and still in Pensacola. Like, we just got like a slight breeze while Biloxi and New Orleans was just getting torn to shreds. But okay,
and Hattiesburg.
Oh yeah, and Hattiesburg. You can't forget about them. I think Mississippi in general kind of gets overlooked when it comes to the whole Katrina thing.
It does. Somebody was on Twitter talking earlier about how every hurricane is either hits Florida or it hits New Orleans. They never talk about the phantom states of Mississippi and Alabama.
Well, that I guess because like geographically, there's only small coastlines here and there, and I don't know. I don't know why it gets overlooked, but I mean, there was a lot more damage done to Mississippi, and plus Mississippi had a better evacuation plan than Louisiana. But that is a whole nother topic that we'll get into after this break. No kidding. But so why were you only there for one season?
A lot. I guess I got homesick a little bit, and there were a lot of things that went down with the organization there. They were going bankrupt. The team actually went bankrupt after that year, and I just kind of felt like it was time to move on and time to get into something else. So I came back here to Mississippi and started working at Cell South. Ceasefire now, and I don't like talking about my employers, but I can talk about them now.
Yeah, as long as you're not affiliated,
not affiliated with them,
and we don't have any sponsors yet, so you can.
I don't think Ceasefire is going to sponsor us. If we were like affiliated with Ole Miss, then we might get a sponsorship from Ceasefire. But
what a great team Ole Miss is.
So, anyways, came back. Started actually before when I first came back, I started boxing for a little while and got into really good shape. I lost about 30 pounds in about 3 months, and got to be a cocky SOB. And
so you had sort of an affinity for boxing, or was that just something sudden?
I always loved boxing. I always something I was interested in. I got really into it college and post college. I have a friend of mine who actually I met when I came back from Chicago. He is a boxing writer. He has had a book published. He owns a website, 8countnews.com. And I started tagging along with him. And, he's, I guess, a member of the media. And we show up at this one fight on HBO. And he had put me down as his photographer just to get me in. So it's like a championship fight on HBO. And
like, where was it, in Vegas?
It was in Memphis. It was in Memphis.
Memphis.
It was
okay.
Tarver versus Johnson. And
remember that, folks?
Remember that? Tarver versus Johnson.
Tarver versus Johnson.
So I get there and I go find the PR lady and I'm like, I can't find my seat. And she's like, oh, you're up here. And they had my name on the ring. So if you watch the fight, you see like these guys with these big ass media cameras, and then you see me with this like point and click, like like spinning a little wheel every time I take a picture.
Oh my gosh.
It was hilarious. But while I was in boxing, I also got to be a judge for Night of Fights, which included Tanya Harding and Butterbean.
Hopefully not against each other.
Not against.
Actually, I paid to see
I would
that.
rather have seen that, actually. But after the fights, I'm in the hotel lobby, and Leon Spinks, who was a former heavyweight champ, doesn't have any front teeth. He beat Ali in like 77. Me and Tanya and Leon are like hanging out in the hotel lobby. I don't know how that happened, but it just did. We go to the after party. We come back. We start just drinking. We shut down the hotel bar, and Leon is drunk off his ass, and we actually tucked him into bed. And then Tanya says, I've got a case of Bud in the room. You want to come chill? Yeah, this is freaking surreal. So we're sitting there drinking, and I did not ask her about anything that you would think you should ask her about, just because she had a mean jab for a woman. I mean, it was something fierce. If she didn't have asthma, she could have been a world champion in boxing. No lie. But we're sitting there talking, and then she goes, I need a dip. And she reaches into her bag and pulls out a can and sticks the dip in. And I said, this is priceless.
Did you get a photo with them?
Yeah. I got some.
Have you put them up on Facebook yet?
Yeah, they're on Facebook. Yeah, they sure
I guess
are.
I need to check those out. But I think this podcast is about comedy. But but okay, so you get done with the whole boxing stage of your life. And
Yes.
what made you like? All right, so take me to after this whole boxing.
After the whole boxing thing, I started working. Met Melissa, my future. Well, she's my wife now, and
What was she doing at the time when you guys met?
she was actually good friends with my roommate.
Mm-hmm.
And she would come over. She would come over and hang out with her, and I'd see her, and it just eventually just all came to a head at one point. But it was really a blessing because she kind of helped get me centered and just kind of. It's just nature that man has to be with a woman or another man. But for me, it was another woman, and once you get that squared away, you can just focus on the rest of the life.
Or loneliness sometimes.
Or loneliness, which leads to the depression, which leads to what's wrong with the other comics. But,
yeah.
But I'd always thought about comedy. It's always something that's been in the back of my mind, something I've always wanted to do. And I kind of told myself 30 was going to be the magical year. I was going to have to do it when I was... If I'm going to do it, I'm going to do it when I'm 30. So I was listening to Rock 104, and they had a open mic comedy contest in Laurel. And the winner got $500. I said, "Well, this is if I'm going to do it."
I thought it was 1,000.
If it was, I didn't know about the other 500.
Cheapened you.
Yeah. But I was like, man, if I could do this, and I could, this could lead to other things. I've always wanted to do it. If I could just get that first time out of the way, I'll be good. So you had to call in, and I was actually at a food show in Jackson, and it had just been weighing on me. It was like the Tuesday before, and I was like, I've got to call this hotline and audition, because you had to call in and audition, or you were supposed to at first. And I called in, and I did George Bush doing the Old Spice commercial. That was my bit, and they called me back and said, "Yeah, you're in. We'll see you Friday night at Overtime Sports Bar in Laurel." So I show up at that, and I sit at the table next to you, and I was like, this guy looks like Charlie Sheen.
Yeah, by the way, I should have played that up, but didn't. I was such an amateur. Like, I didn't really have... And my girlfriend at the time, she just blew smoke up my ass the whole time. Like, I was like, are these jokes good? Like, I kept on asking her. It's like, yeah, they're good. They're good. I probably... Like, I think I said in the original podcast, I got, like, 2 laughs.
But we didn't know what good was.
Yeah.
It was like, just kind of going off the cuff. And I had bought a couple of comedy books that I had just kind of looked through over the years, and kind of wrote down some stuff that I thought was funny, and I drank. I was so nervous, though.
It all comes back to drinking.
All because I had like 3 Red Bull and vodkas before I got up there, and in retrospect, it was not the greatest set in the history of comedy. It was actually quite embarrassing to where I'm at now. But I ended up winning the contest.
Yeah, I don't think you can say embarrassing when you won the competition.
Well, the good and the bad. The good that I won, and I had an interest in doing comedy, and I was able to take my wife out for a nice dinner for her birthday.
A $500
met
dinner.
It really ended up being a $500 weekend that weekend.
Where in the crap did you go?
We went to Saturday night. We went to Ruth Chris. And then Sunday we went to New Orleans and had brunch. And between the casinos and patos and everything else in between, it just got out of hand. But anyways, good and the bad. Good, I met you. Got to do comedy for the first time. But the bad, I thought I was way better than I was. I had a friend that worked at like the IP on the coast, and I called her up. I was like, "Hey, I'm doing comedy now. If you ever need anybody,
After your first time, you did that?
After my first time, I thought I was ready, and I didn't realize. Now I realize how terrible I was and still am. But at the time, because of how that went, I thought I was ready for the big time.
Then again, I kind of had that feeling too at one point early on, but it was like after a few. I think it was after the Laden Wheat stuff. I thought I was hot shit because like the open mic person had been on like Premium Blend, and I was just like, yeah, he thought I was funny. This is it.
You never, until you get that level of self-awareness, you're never going to be any good.
Mm-hmm.
But,
yeah.
So me and Mercer, you.
Yes.
We kind of kept we kept in touch for a couple of months, and we were like, I guess our train of thought was, nobody's going to come see us all the time. It's just not going to happen. We're going to have to start.
I don't know about you, but me, no kidding. But
I knew that nobody would just come see you, and I was like, we got to find more people to make this happen. So I think about June that year, we finally came up with the name Hub City Comedy. We started a Facebook page, and initially we just started putting up comedy events from around the region, like Bruce, or if Lisa Lampanelli was at the casino or something, we'd put that up. But so I knew that after we got the page up, we had to start two things. We had to start an open mic that was just for comedy, and we had to get a venue where we could just do shows and get some practice in. So they were kind of doing open mics at the time at the Thirsty Hippo, and we got a lot of great people that kind of merged with us from that comedy renaissance of 2010. But I didn't enjoy the Thirsty Hippo as much as some other people did, and I felt like we needed it to be just comedy for us to really make strides. We needed to have an open mic that was set just for comedy. So we lined it up at the time the Martini Spot, which has evolved into McGregor's Pub, and we lined up shows at Caliente, which we called Viva Haha.
Mm-hmm.
I think me, you, Derek, and Zach were on the first one. And
there was a fourth one, or was it just?
It was just us four that first time. Me, you.
Oh yeah, what the hell am I thinking? I can't count.
Yeah.
I can't count people.
You can't. Yeah. Do you count yourself? Was that the problem?
Twice actually.
You count yourself twice.
Yeah.
And Caliente ended up being really good. A lot of our friends would come out and watch us.
That was like you thought your set. I think my first set of Viva Haha was embarrassing. Like but that's before we had our weekly open mics.
Yeah.
That first show, and so like a lot of the material hadn't been tested. But yeah, that's probably one of my more embarrassing sets. Now that I've gone, like I remember HR. Sweet. Well, it looks like it's spelled sweat. He videotaped it because I thought it was like, yeah, we're gonna put this on YouTube. It's gonna be great. And
I went out and bought a Randy Watson T-shirt.
I bought like gold chains and stuff. I thought I was living the high life. No, but yeah, he videotaped it and Vinny chain. Yeah, he put it on Betamax. But yeah, he recorded it and he actually had it on his professional website. Like, it wasn't yet viewable to the public.
Right.
But he let me watch it, and I was just like, don't ever show this again. Like, burn it. It was just so bad.
You watch it now, and you realize how bad it was. But I think between those first two Viva Ha-Has, you evolved really quick as far as, changing your style up and getting the response from the crowd that you wanted to get.
Well, first off, I memorized my material.
Well, yeah, that was a big plus.
I think the first time I literally just had like a piece of paper there, and like every one or two jokes, I would just lean over and like awkwardly just do that. But that's I guess advice I could give to comedians. Like, for open mics, I think you can kind of just glance at your phone because you're just testing out material. But for gig wise, memorize your material, and if you can't, at least try to just memorize parts of it and try to look at your phone as least as possible.
It's very unprofessional if to show up like, and me and Mercer put together a lot of shows in town, and especially the bigger shows. I'm not gonna get somebody that's not gonna be professional, and I'm sure a lot of bookers are the same way. And really, this is a conversation you don't have to have in most cities. Mm-hmm. Most people just know that that's the way that it is.
But sometimes we get those people that come in.
Yeah, true.
All right, but keep kind of going.
Okay, go with the flow. Shows. We got the Caliente flow going.
Yeah.
This is that second Caliente show. Caliento. Frank Caliendo.
Yeah. Frank, he's coming.
The second Frank Caliendo show.
Yeah.
The second Caliente show was when I really found out that I was not as good as I thought I was. And I had a great set. That's not the problem. I had as far the times, I thought I had a great set. I got some laughs and everything. But I hadn't seen much stand-up comedy live before. And I put Nathan Hosey on the show. And he was like runner-up for funniest comic in Houston that year. And just, he came in. I didn't know what to expect, but we had some mutual friends. And I was like, well, this guy's been doing it. We'll definitely have to give him a shot. I'd seen his videos. And I thought I did good. And then Nathan got up there and just killed it. And I said, this guy is on a whole nother level from where we're at. We got to change the way I think.
We got to call your friend at the IP.
Yeah, we got to call my friend at the IP. You got to get this guy Nathan Hosey. He's good. But it kind of made me realize that I wasn't as good as I thought I was. And that I had a long ways to go. And just kind of changed, it kind of grounded me, and I needed that. A lot of young comics need that. There's a lot of, comics out there that I wish it would happen to, both young and intermediate, and even certain headliners.
Yeah, certain headliners I wish they could kind of be grounded, but I mean, there are those times where I've had like really good sets. Like I go maybe like 2 or 3 weeks with like really good open mics and stuff like that, but you definitely always need that one open mic where like a lot of your stuff just bombs, because it makes you want to try
totally
harder and not just write schlock, because sometimes you do, like if you're on a roll with stuff, sometimes you do start writing kind of schlocky things, and
it's all about effort.
You
get what you put into it, you get out of it. So evolution of comedy in Hattiesburg. So after we kept doing Caliente shows, getting more people in the mix. We started doing shows at Sidelines. We started bringing in, some regional guys, Skip Guidry and T. Ray. Both of them did great here. And it kind of got to a point where, we were doing shows pretty regularly around town. And then, I guess it was last September, you just kind of in a ballsy mood. Tell them what happened.
With Pat?
Yeah, with Pat.
Yeah, like people have asked me this repeatedly. Like they think that I like climbed Mount Everest or something like that. Like they always think that I went above and beyond. But I just friended a lot of comedians on Facebook, and I remember I saw Pat his Comedy Central special, and I was like, man, this guy is hilarious. And I found him on Facebook. And then a few months down the line, I just randomly messaged him, like, hey, if you want to do a show in Hattiesburg, Mississippi. And then he responded back, like, I think it was like an hour later, and he was just like, yeah, sure. But here's the thing, I didn't know how, and it was like, so how much for like a room and stuff? And I'm like, well, you're going to get the bottling company. Like, I didn't.
It was the Shed at the time, too.
Yeah, it was the Shed at the time. It was like, you're going to get the Shed. That must have been creepy. And it was like, oh, so what kind of room? You get a shed. Like, that's all you get. You get to sleep in that.
When I was in Phoenix, one of my responsibilities was I think they had, my title was event presentation coordinator, which I didn't do a whole lot of that. I did some of that.
I should have just, like, after my initial intro, I should have just, like, let you have, like, my name and password on Facebook so you could just deal with that shit.
Oh, dude, it was so funny because you'd call me and I'd be like, and both of us were extremely nervous because we knew that if we could pull this off, how awesome it would be for the Hub City community. And I heard you calling me. What should I do? An offer?
It was like me trying to ask like the hottest chick out to prom. Like that's the
he wants an offer. How do we do
like,
that?
Well, what type of corsage should I get? Like that kind of thing. But it really did. Like at some points, I felt like I was back in high school, like trying to ask out like some like the hot cheerleader chick or something like that. But I mean, eventually we got him.
Yeah.
And it was surreal to see him like walk into the bottling company.
It was great, and then we did a traditional comedy setup that night. I emceed, you featured, and then Pat went up, and I think we all did really well. But it was almost just like, I mean, I couldn't stop smiling watching Pat up there. He just ripped the crowd to shreds.
It's almost effortless.
Yeah,
because it probably is effortless.
It really is. Yeah,
I remember like. Just the advice he would give, and it was like, yeah, I really just kind of just made it. Like, he really has this career where he's just like, I don't know, like he's gotten to where he is.
He's so nonchalant.
Yeah, just in a very like nonchalant way. But that's not taking any credit. Like that's just the kind of talent that
he's like a sniper, man. He just sits there and then he'll just hit you.
Yeah.
At one time with just the most solid of punchlines that you didn't see coming.
And like even his improv is just hilarious. Like I remember my roommate at the time, he was kind of riffing on her for like being Indian. Like he just had like all of this.
Oh yeah. I remember her.
Mm-hmm. But ever since we got Pat, and then that kind of got things steamrolling.
The funny thing about that night was I told him there was a comic that I liked. I said, there's a guy that I like. And I kind of messaged him. After we landed, Pat, I messaged him and I said, hey, would you be interested? He said, yeah, whatever. A guy named Nate Bargatze. I said, I really like Nate. And I told Pat about it, and Pat was like, oh, Nate would kill here. So Pat goes back to New York, runs into Nate. I get a message from Nate that evening talking about, he ran into Pat, talked about how good the Hope City comedy shows were, and that if he was ever around, he would come do one here. So it was really cool to make that connection and start. That was how networking began with us in a lot of these New York comics.
And that's how I definitely sort of had. I went to LA not really knowing any comedians. Like I ran into the only comedian I knew was this guy AJ Salas, but that's he is just kind of like me, he's just kind of doing amateur stuff.
Never heard of him
over there.
Yeah.
I don't want to do that. I don't want to be mean to him because I'll probably try to have him on this podcast.
No. I'm just joking.
Well, speaking of that, I am gonna have. I got a guy, Keith Western. He's
who?
Exactly, but he's gonna be on the podcast soon.
That's
Whenever
cool.
I can
That's
figure out how to do the whole Skype call thing. But yeah, the Pat sort of helped me out, getting to know the New York. I felt like I had a bigger leg up when I went to New York than when I went to LA.
Pat has just been huge for us, and how we not only how the Hub City feels about the shows we put on now, but ourselves and just the evolution of comedy. Just getting to watch him, and I just learn so much every time I see him on stage.
Mm-hmm. But I mean, we've had Sean Patton and
Sean Patton was
Hannibal
great.
Buress and everyone like that.
Hannibal kind of came after we had Nate here. I love Nate. Nate's one of my favorite comics. I just really enjoy his stuff and can relate to a lot of it. But he kind of reached out to Hannibal a little bit, and it's really cool to land Hannibal. Jared Harris was really awesome.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah.
We had some really great shows. Just really. It's been awesome to get these guys to come to Hattiesburg and entertain the crowd.
It's kind of put our name on the map a little bit because
and we don't. This is the crazy thing about it. We got them to come to town. We've made a way to have it happen financially, but really, honestly, we don't really belong. you
don't think so?
No. We are probably MC level.
Well, I mean,
maybe borderline feature.
I don't think that. I remember I was talking with Nathan one time, and I forget what it was about. I think we were both talking about I don't think I'm ready or something like that, something. And then Nathan kind of brought up a good point. Is you'll never really know when you're ready, but if you're offered the opportunity, you got to take that. I mean,
exactly.
You'll never feel like you're ready.
No, I'll take if anybody gives me an opportunity, I'll take it.
But I mean, we certainly don't belong. on their level.
Yeah, it's just
and it's weird for me to talk to Pat because sometimes I'll feel like I'm just talking to just someone that's kind of big, but then I at other points I'm just oh my gosh, I'm talking to a guy that I idolize, and he's talking to me on my level, and it's just the weirdest feeling.
It's just very, very surreal at times, but very, very awesome thing that not only us but some of the other Hub City comics can get some stage time in front of these guys and get to meet them and get some tips. One thing that cracks me up, man, is with these shows is I think I've gotten better in the past year in a lot of regards. But when we first started doing them, I got a good response from the crowd. But what I would hear from the comics is, "Hey, you got some good impressions," which is code for. I've come to realize they don't really care to watch you. They just want to show up and do their thing and get out of there.
Yeah.
And it's kind of a backhanded.
Well, I was just about to ask who, but I don't want to throw anyone.
All of them. All of them. Every one of them. The same. You did good You have good impressions, which is kind of I want to give you a compliment, but
you handle the mic well.
You handle the mic well. You're a good MC.
I liked how you talked into it and people could hear you through the speakers.
Yes. You said my name correctly.
Mm-hmm.
But
to go on to another thing, it's always these James Lipton questions. But what's been your all-time favorite gig?
That Pat one was really. I think I felt the best at the Hannibal show because I really feel like he's just an emerging star, and I didn't have the best set that night, but it was nothing could phase. I was just all smiles. It was nothing can phase me. It was just super excited. But I guess as far as performance goes, that show in Jackson a few weeks ago was really, really awesome for me.
Oh yeah.
It's like whenever I go out of town, I do great because
we-
I've been telling the
we
same
all
jokes
do.
for 2 years.
Well, we all do because I mean that's what we love about doing out of town shows is like, oh, I don't have to come up with any new jokes for a week.
Do the
you
old
know?
stuff, yeah. But I love the Jackson show, man. I've been trying to change my style up a little bit and trying.
No, I like your style now. It's definitely you're more like I don't care. Like
Yeah.
you're not like I don't care to the point where you're just gonna riff on stage, but you're just more comfortable. Like I can't pinpoint what it is, but I like the
it's well. I guess get back to like story time. When I was in between Chicago and Phoenix, I took acting classes from Gary Grubbs, and I would talk with Gary about things, and he kept. It's like.
It's like I was in X-Files, right?
So I was in X. He's like, first you talk fast, and then you talk slow. That's how Gary talks. He will just have, anyways. So I was talking with him, and he was like, "So
maybe we could have a podcast with him.
That would be awesome. I would like to sit in on that if you do that. Just, I don't even have to talk. I'll just sit and just watch Gary talk. But
just never breaking eye contact.
Never breaking eye contact. You are freaking me out, Jamie.
You are freaking me out.
Why don't you leave? But I was talking with Gary, and he was like, asked me what I wanted to do in entertainment. And at the time, I mean, I was just kind of like, I'd like to act. I'd like to do comedy. I've thought about doing stand-up. And he was kind of like, you need to concentrate on one thing. And that's kind of how I think it is a lot of times in comedy is that when you're successful, they want a certain style and, a certain shtick they can identify you with. And that may be true and that may be the case. But I've always felt like I don't want to put myself in a box. I don't want to do just impressions. I don't want to do just one-liners. I don't want to do just jokes. I think it's more interesting when you can just entertain and mix it up and do a lot of different things. And, hey, I may not ever get anywhere doing that. But for me, I feel like it works best when I can do different styles of jokes and different bits and skits on stage. So.
I think you brought up a good point. Like, I don't think anyone should ever, especially starting out, no one should ever be like, well, I'm going to be a blue collar comedian, or I'm just gonna be shock comic or something like that. Like I think
that young comics who want to be shock comics are just, oh my god.
I don't really, to be honest, I don't like that style of humor. Like I know a few guys that do it. And I like them. I just don't like...
It takes a while to be able to pull that off. Like, I watched Amy Schumer's special the other night. Extremely shocking, yet extremely hilarious. But sometimes the young guys, I think, confuse shock for humor.
Yeah.
And there's just a certain...
and also, you have to be sort of casual about it.
Yeah,
And that's why I liked Amy's stuff, because she would say something... But she wouldn't like lean forward or anything to like accentuate the point. Like I think the whole point is that she's casually saying shocking things.
The element of surprise is like, I think it's the greatest weapon a comic can have. Because that's usually when you get the best laughs.
Yeah. Is
when you don't see it coming. And that probably is Comedy 101, but hey, I've just found that out. I've just realized that. Element of surprise.
Yes. We learned something today.
We learned something today.
All right, but the other question is, what is your worst gig that you ever did? Like one gig that you're just like, ugh.
And when you say gig, you mean like a paid gig, or like a gig.
Not anything that's not an open mic.
Okay, yeah. Caliente show number 3 or 4. I did it went great up until my last joke, and it was a joke that I never tried out before, and it was like a 5-minute joke.
Let me guess, it was the Owen Wilson.
Yes,
yeah,
it was the Owen Wilson Charlie Sheen bit, and I was my impressions weren't great, but you knew who I was talking about when I did them, and but it was not set up for laughs. It was just set up like a sketch, and it some people said they enjoyed it, and a lot of the non-comics, but I was just devastated when I got off because it brought my part of the show to a screeching halt, and I learned a lot from that. I learned that brevity is key. laughs per minute is definitely key. The more laughs you can get, and the quicker you can get to the laughs, the better.
LPMs, yes.
LPMs, yes. The quicker you can get to it, the better. Just the speed of getting the interaction with the audience. But that was about a 5-minute interpretive sketch that with very minimal laughs, and it's a very, very chilling feeling to have that happen.
You're saying it like it's almost like sort of a horror story.
It was a horror. I went home and I think I wrote like an apology on Facebook. I'm sorry for you coming out. Yeah, it was that bad. But after that, I kind of felt like I bounced back after that show, just like you were talking about, having a bad set and then coming back out and getting after it. I kind of bounced back after that and had some really good sets. So, but that would probably be the worst experience that I've had. But it's good that I went through that. Mm-hmm. Very good to go through something like that.
Well, I mean, I guess Derek and I kind of hit on this. Like, what are some do's and don'ts that you've noticed besides the ones that?
Well, this is, I listen to a lot of podcasts, and let me preface this by saying that anytime anybody gives advice and they haven't made it, it almost makes you sound like an asshole. Because
well, yeah, but I mean, like, but you're just, but I mean, you're just coming up. But I mean, like, there's some things that I know definitely not to do, and then there's some stuff I know to do. Like, I'm not saying that like we've made it where.
No. I'm just saying. I'm just prefacing it because when I hear people giving advice and they haven't made it, I'm like, okay, well, why should I listen to you? You haven't really done anything, and some of the stuff you're saying is obviously wrong. So, but I guess. Just things that I've learned. Like I said, the element of surprise is key. Brevity is key. Keeping the party going is key. You can use pauses, but just not all. Too many pauses can kind of get in the way of your interaction with the crowd. One thing that I don't want to say I'm a comedy scholar, but I have a lot of books that I read, and some of them have.
I have a lot of leather-bound books.
I have a lot of leather-bound books, and my house smells of rich mahogany. But I try to study up on the rules that are written out there, the rules that people have made up, the joke formulas, and things like that. Just to know, for one, and two, to know what they are so you can know how to get around them if you need to. So, and also just you want to watch a lot of comics, but you don't want to watch too many comics because you don't want to get in your head where you'll have callback of their jokes and you'll tell them as your own, which I may have done at some point, and I'm sure I know I've seen some others do that. I was talking with a guy last week who did that, but I guess, and I guess too, there's a lot of ego involved in comedy, and you kind of need to know your place and where you're at. If you're good enough to get, there's nothing wrong with being aggressive and going after shows, but when you're good enough to be on them, somebody's going to ask you to do them. And usually it's a problem with your younger guys, first off. But does that make, you know what I'm saying?
Oh yeah, I guess. Yeah, I think that makes sense.
We've done this podcast like seriously. I don't think I've been as funny as I should be.
Well, sometimes you need a
you need
serious,
just a serious, just to sit down and talk conversation.
Sometimes people need that.
Let's get back into the depression, okay?
Yeah. Well, what are you hoping for the future of Hub City Comedy and yourself?
The future of Hub City Comedy myself. Well, first off, I want to see all you guys succeed. I don't think that we're not going to be. I consider myself one of the leaders of the group, I guess, just from booking the shows and setting them up and everything. And I don't think that we would have been able to do some of the things that we've done if I would have been selfish and put my name bigger than everybody else's name on the flyer, put my name at the top of the list. I think a lot of people resent that kind of stuff. I don't think we would have ever been able to do a lot of things we do as a team if that were the case. So first off, I want to see you guys like yourself, Derek, Brittany, move on and into bigger markets where you get more opportunities. And I hopefully one of you guys will make it. That's the immediate goal. I guess for Hub City Comedy, I'd like to see us keep doing the shows we're doing and keep producing talent. I mean, it comes and goes, kind of as a stepping stone to do bigger and better things. And then for myself, I kind of consider myself a good MC now, and I guess the next stage is I'd like to get to be a good feature. Headlining will come, I guess, eventually, but if I stay with it and continue to work hard. But for myself, I'd like to get better as a performer, and I'd like to get to a level where I could comfortably hold down a feature spot on a bigger show. I think I could MC now with no problem. I think I got a good 10, 15 minutes. That constantly evolves, but really I'd like to get a good 30 or 45 and be able to middle. That's just an immediate goal. From there, we'll see. That's you got to take each step one at a time. I can't come out and say, "Oh, I want to get my own Comedy Central special. I think I'm ready for HBO," or you're going to see me on TV one day. It's just not me.
I don't really even like to talk to people who sound like that.
I don't, yeah, Mercer, listen up.
I got a joke.
I got a joke for you. You're going to laugh at this. Tell me what you thought of that joke. Did you like that? Did you think that was funny?
Although I constantly ask that, though. But do you have anything else that you wanted to talk about or add or anything?
I think that hurricane safety is important. Going through that right now, I think you need to have a lot of AA batteries, bottled water. One thing I like to do during hurricane season is I like to take bottled water and put it in the freezer and let it get frozen. So if the power goes out, it'll still keep my groceries cool for a while.
Is that bonus track, I guess.
Bonus track.
Yeah, a hurricane preparedness, safety, and stuff. I just like how it's just like a gust of wind is, and then like you're like, holy shit, and then there's like 3-hour lines for the gas station. And
well, we go off what Jim Cantori tells us.
He is the bringer of death. Like I've just noticed that he is the destructor. He's Zool or whatever from Ghostbusters. Like wherever he shows up, it's just like we're the worst part of the stuff. That guy is just like a glutton for punishment when it comes.
I wish I had stock in Sam's Club water because it's all gone today.
Oh yeah, I mean like I saw this one girl.
Sam's Choice, excuse me.
Sam's Choice, yeah, sorry. Sam's Choice, a great bot if they ever want to sponsor us. Sam's Choice.
Sam's Choice.
But
or Dr. Thunder, either one.
Oh gosh, or Mr. Pibb or something like that.
Well, no, that Mr. Pibb is the real thing.
Yeah, or not Dr. Pepper.
No, it's like Dr. Thunder is like that's either the Winn-Dixie brand or the Walmart brand.
Well, I don't really even drink soft drinks anymore, right. But I do sometimes miss it. But then other times, like I think I'll have like maybe one soft drink a year, but I always feel like so weighed down.
Man, yeah, I could go for a good Mountain Lightning right now.
Is there really something called Mountain Lightning?
Yes.
That kind of sounds more like an Urban Dictionary term for like moonshine or drugs or something like that. That
Mountain Lightning. It sounds more dirty.
Yeah, it's like I want some Mountain Lightning. Like it sounds like something that like Scarface would peddle.
It sounds like inner anal release. We're taking a little blue now. Let's go there.
Yeah, inner anal release. Let's just
Mountain Lightning.
Mountain Lightning. Well, that kind of sounded like an awesome term that you just made disgusting. Now I'm just gonna think about like anal leakage and stuff whenever I think of it.
Baby, I'm gonna give you
Dirty
Sanchez with the Mountain Lightning.
Well, are you ready to shut this podcast
Yeah, let's
down?
do it, man. Let me plug my shows again. Well, first off, I didn't plug my own site, facebook.com/Jamie Arrington Comedy. Then Twitter, at Jamie, JAMIE _Arrington, ARRING, or a ringtone. Then our site, hubcitycomedy.com, facebook.com/hubcitycomedy. I'm usually at McGregor's every Monday night. If you want to come check it out. Also, September 13th, it's a Thursday night, Corner Sports Bar on 49, just outside of Camp Shelby, around Drew's Diner. Going to be a great lineup. Mac Hard, I'm really excited about working with her. Brittany,
I need to get her on
Purvis.
the
podcast. I love Mac Hard, man. I know she doesn't necessarily love my type, but I love her. Brittany Purvis is going to be there, and Eric Carter is going to be the host. And then the return of the legend, September 18th, Pat Dixon at Sideline Sports Cafe. I'll be there. Mercer will be there. Derek will be there. Dave Smith will be there. It's going to be a great night of comedy. If all of this is still standing after this weekend, just
yeah, who knows? But I guess I'll plug my couple of shows. Yes, I'm on the Pat Show and stuff. But September 7th, I believe, at the Jellyfish Bar. We'll just keep having a gas with this. But I think it's like 8 or 9. But it's September 7th, the Jellyfish Bar in Perdido. I guess when it comes closer, I'll give out more details. But also, I have the September 29th show at the Alchemy Tavern in Mobile. And so I can't wait. William Masters is hosting. Brittany Purvis will be at both of those shows, the Jellyfish Bar and the Alchemy Tavern. But you can find us on hubcitycomedy.com or facebook.com/hubcitycomedy. My name is Mercer Morrison, and my guest has been Jamie Arrington.
thank you, love.
I bid you all adieu.